Jai Radha Madhava. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihar Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Nandana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudayayat Nastaprayasavadrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaśloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 10th chapter, and verses 14 and 15. Let's see how's my screen here. You guys can see this? I need a confirmation.
Yes, we can see perfectly. Thank you.
Awesome. I'll just recite the Sanskrit. Yata kantaka vidhango janto nechanti tam yatam jiva samyam yakato linga natata vidha kantaka. By seeing their faces, well, I'll just give a quick context before actually. So we're reading about the pastime of Nalakuvera and Managriva and how they took their birth in the body of trees by a curse of Narada Muni. And it's kind of the way that the last chapter ended was by Maharaj Parikshit asking how did they get into this body of trees, because there were these two trees in the courtyard of Mother Yashoda and Nanda's courtyard. And this is kind of a main part of the Damodar Lila, or the kind of end of the Damodar Lila, in which Krishna breaks the pots of butter and then is bound by Mother Yashoda. So this is in the context of the 10th canto of Krishna's childhood pastimes. And yesterday, in the past few days, we were reading about how kind of this mentality, this materialistic mentality, this prideful mentality that the two sons of Kuvera had, and how they got cursed by the great sage Narada Muni. So, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. By seeing their faces, one whose body has been pricked by pins can understand the pain of others who are pinpricked. Realizing that this pain is the same for everyone, he does not want others to suffer in this way. But one who has never been pricked by pins cannot understand this pain. Purport. There's a saying, the happiness of wealth is enjoyable by a person who has tasted the distress of poverty. There's also another common saying, Vandya ki bujibe prasavad vedana. A woman who has not given birth to a child cannot understand the pain of childbirth. Unless one comes to the platform of actual experience, one cannot realize what is pain and what is happiness in this material world. The laws of nature act accordingly. If one has killed an animal, one must himself be killed by that same animal. This is called mamsa. Mam means me, and sa means he. As I am eating an animal, that animal will have the opportunity to eat me. In every state, therefore, it is ordinarily the custom that if a person commits murder, he is hanged. So I have to also read verse 15, but for now I'm just gonna, there's a lot to unpack in this verse, so we'll start here. And let me do my invocation. Om Jnanatamrandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopisam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadadmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parajina Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Sute Tata Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindaveshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyari Paschachari Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Begging for the blessings of everyone assembled to speak something pleasing, beneficial, truthful, and in line with Guru Sadhu and Shastra. So this verse number 14 is mainly dealing with the concept of empathy and how one cannot understand the pain of others unless they've gone through it themselves. I'll just share a quick anecdote that I experienced yesterday. So I suffer from chronic neck pain, and I was kind of looking down on another devotee yesterday. I was like, oh, they're not really chanting with their heart, or they're just kind of looking a little bit bitter in the kirtan. And then I saw them, do this one stretch that us with neck pain like to do, give some temporary relief. And immediately all those negative feelings toward the devotee were eradicated, because I was like, oh, he's suffering just like me. And who am I to? All these thoughts came up. So this kind of concept of brotherhood and suffering. And I was just thinking how we can apply this to, or how we can notice this in Srila Prabhupada, how we can notice this in so many great Vaishnavas, this compassion and this intense feeling for others' suffering. This is how Srila Prabhupada and the Mahabhagavat devotee sees others. They don't judge them. They don't think that they're better than others because they have Krishna and they're a liberated devotee. They are just aching. Their hearts are aching to relieve the suffering of others. And in Bhakti Tirtha Swami's book, Surrender, he's kind of disclosing his heart, how he feels like he just wants to go back to Godhead. He said, I've done so much service for you, Krishna. I'm at the end of my life. I'm ready. I even, I'm so entitled that I even feel this way. Being in the movement and doing like no service. Like, Krishna, I'm ready, please. I'm done here. But what he said in his book was that you're qualified to go back to Godhead only when you're ready to go back to Godhead, when you're ready to take on the position of a homeless person on the streets, a person who has chronic illness, a person who, even an animal who's a dog on the streets of India. He gave all these examples. He said, when you're ready to take their place, then that's when you're ready to go back to Godhead. And I just thought that was a very powerful sentiment. And we have the examples of Lord Chaitanya and Haridas. Well, actually, I'll say that one for last. But we have the example of Jesus on the cross and how he was willingly taking the suffering so that, others, this is the conception, the Christian conception, that he was suffering for them and he was taking their sins. And then we also have the example of Vasudev Datta, who was praying for this sentiment. Also, he was praying to Lord Chaitanya. My heart just breaks seeing all these fallen conditioned souls suffering in their ignorance. Please take all of their sins and put them on my head. And this incredible, incredible compassion is embodied by so many of our Vaishnav acharyas and saints. And so we're meant to follow in their footsteps and obviously not imitate that level. But when we're preaching, I've spoken to a lot of people who have done book distribution, and they've disclosed to me that they actually feel a little bit superior, and they don't have as much compassion for materialistic persons as they'd like to, and it affects their book distribution. But for someone like Srila Prabhupada, he was just chanting, and a few blocks away from Bhakti Center, we have the Hare Krishna tree, and he was chanting there, and so many people were attracted because of his pure love. And so I believe there was a class a few months ago that was entitled "The Best Preaching is a Happy Devotee." And I would also add to that the best preaching is compassion. You can just see His Holiness Radhanath Swami and his compassion, how it so just attracts everyone. It attracts everyone. And so sometimes it's not the best approach to ear bend and try to sell everyone a book by your own doing, but just become an instrument. St. Francis prays to become an instrument of God's compassion, God's peace. So we have all these examples. Yeah, and it's also that. So I'm just looking at my notes. All these Nitya Siddha devotees are coming to the material world. They're liberated from birth. So in a sense, they're not really suffering. They're not really in misery like a normal fallen conditioned soul. But they take birth. I mean, Haridas Thakur took birth in a low family. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur took, he was not born. He was not born practicing Krishna consciousness. We just observed their appearance days and disappearance days recently. So that's why I'm mentioning them, but they're also great examples of how a person preaches, because if everyone, if all the Nitisiddhas came and they were just, having a great time in this material world, we wouldn't be able to relate to them. We wouldn't be able to, and they wouldn't really be able to relate with our experience as people in suffering. So Krishna allows them to, or he arranges for them to take birth in such a situation where they can have empathy. Not that they wouldn't have empathy, but it's just they know firsthand the experience, and they see also, which brings me to my next point, which is there's 3 classes of learners. And just to make this a little bit interactive, I just want to ask if anyone can tell me the 3, or sometimes we say that there's 4 classes of learners. Does anyone want to share?
Do you mean the distressed, the curious, the material motivated, and the spiritual seeker?
That wasn't exactly what I was looking for. I'm talking about, thank you. That is mentioned by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita as 4 types of people that approach
Did we
him.
lose Evan, or it's just me?
So what I was looking for is that there's the person who learns from hearing. That's the first class learner. The second class learner is those who learn from seeing others experience. And the third class learner is those who have to experience it themselves to get the message. And then sometimes we say that the 4th class is those who still don't get the message after experiencing. So, what class were the 2 sons of Kuvera? What class were they in? I feel like a teacher is gonna be, if no one says, I'm gonna call on you. Okay, I'll just say it. They were 3rd class learners. They needed that experience. That's why Narada Muni cursed them to take birth in the family of trees. They needed to become deprived of all their wealth and be stripped from the pride, which is what we'll hear about in the next verse. But before that, I just want to kind of drive home this point more. Prabhupada says in the purport, unless one comes to the platform of actual experience, one cannot realize what is pain and what is happiness in this material world. So without a little bit of experience, you can't really understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, which brings, actually, that point mentioned is a great one. Those who are in distress are given impetus to take shelter of Krishna. That's one of the 4 types of Chaturvita Bhajante Mam, those 4 types of people that worship Krishna. And I'm just saying this one conversation. There was a very young Guru Kuli that was asking me a lot of questions. How do I know that this is reality? How do I know that this is, Prabhupada is, I was sharing with him that I basically have faith in everything that Prabhupada says. Whatever he says is correct, and I'll accept it with my full heart. Even if I don't understand it at the time, I accept it to be true. And he said, how can you have such blind faith? How can you have faith that like Krishna consciousness is even the one thing, the one true path? And, or loving devotional service, to be non-sectarian. How can you have faith in that? And I said, experience. I've experienced it to be true. I've invested my shraddha, I've invested my faith, and it's paid off so many times. And basically, he was so young. What I said to him was, you haven't experienced enough. You haven't experienced enough. But when you're older, you'll understand. If you just really study scripture and apply the principles, you'll see that everything is just, who was saying this? Nityananda Chandra was giving soul talks yesterday. And he said, the thing is doing what the thing said it would do. So that's we validate it with our experience. We need that experience to really accept it within our hearts. So that is, I'll have to say in verse 14. And then I'll also share my screen and you can see verse 15. Okay. Daridro niharam stambo mukta sarva madariha kricharam yajchapo yayapnoti tadhi tasya param tapa. A poverty translation purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A poverty-stricken man must automatically undergo austerities and penances because he does not have the wealth to possess anything. Thus his false prestige is vanquished. Always in need of food, shelter, and clothing, he must be satisfied with what is obtained by the mercy of providence. Undergoing such compulsory austerities is good for him because this purifies him and completely frees him from false ego. Purport. A saintly person voluntarily accepts a state of poverty just to become free from material false prestige. Excuse me. Many great kings left their princely standard of living and went to the forest to practice austerity according to Vedic culture, just to become purified. But if one who cannot voluntarily accept such austerity is put into a situation of poverty, he automatically must practice austerity. Austerity is good for everyone because it frees one from material conditions. I'll read that again. Austerity is good for everyone because it frees one from material conditions. Therefore, if one is very much proud of his material position, putting him into poverty is the best way to rectify his foolishness. Daridya dosho guna rasi nasi. When a person is poverty-stricken, naturally his false pride in aristocracy, wealth, education, and beauty is smashed. Thus corrected, he is in the right position for liberation. So the main points that I got from this verse were that poverty increases our reliance on Krishna. And one friend once said to me in the ashram when I was kind of making demands about my comforts, he said, when you need this and that, then you can't focus on Krishna. You aren't as close to Krishna as you could be if you just accept, my friend's a little bit extreme. He tells me that he aspires for the Python situation in which one just opens one's mouth and just accepts whatever comes in and doesn't make any endeavor to.
Will you tell us their name, these devotees, so we can take shelter?
He aspires for that. He's not there. I can tell you for sure. It's my good friend from my ashram, and he's in Houston now. And so maybe you can find out if you go to Houston. But yeah, and then also I'm reading the Ishopanishad right now, and the most unforgettable quote in that whole book is all incompleteness is due to a lack of complete knowledge of the complete whole. Or no, all incompleteness is due to incomplete knowledge of the complete whole. I'll make sure I got that right. And so we can also say all incompleteness is due to an incomplete union with Krishna. And Krishna wants us to be close. He's begging for us to be close to him. For so many lifetimes, he's been waiting. If we hear this, I mentioned this in my last class, but also the story of Gopakumar and how when he finally went to Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna embraced him with so much tears. He was saying, finally, I've been waiting for you. And so Krishna is waiting for each and every jiva to go back to our spiritual position and of loving service with him. And there's another little anecdote I want to share on this point. I have a little sangha in which I used to have a sangha in which I shared some Christian resources to a bunch of devotees that I found helpful personally. And one of them was saying that it was kind of saying that God is jealous and he wants, he wants our attention. And he's fighting for our attention. In so many words, it said he's jealous. And then this one devotee said, but Krishna says, Samaham Sarvabhuteshu, I envy no one. And then I said, envy and jealousy are a little different. Envy, I think this is from Mahatma Prabhu. Envy is jealousy is wanting to enjoy how this other person is enjoying. But envy is not wanting that other person to enjoy or be happy. So they kind of go hand in hand, but envy, Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita that one can be envious of their own self. So how you can't really be jealous of yourself because you already have what you want to have or what you would be jealous of. But you can be envious because you can have the desire or just have this propensity to not let yourself be happy. But Krishna, this is just to make the distinction between envy and jealousy. So Krishna is not envious. He's, not partial to anyone. But he is a little jealous because he's fighting for our attention. And I've had the experience where sometimes I'll be doing like some inattentive japa and something will happen that will like basically slap me into attentiveness. And a friend also similarly shared that when her mind is running away from Krishna, she wrote this in a poem that he will sparkle in the deity form. He will sparkle and catch her attention back. So Krishna's always asking for our attention. He's always wanting our attention. How many times in the Bhagavad Gita does he say, think of me, just fix your mind upon me? He says so many times. So this is his request from us. That Krishna wants us to be close. And so everything that he does in our spiritual life is to bring us closer to him. And just for the sake of time, I'll just mention this verse very quickly. There's another parallel verse in the 88th chapter of the 10th canto, in which Maharaj Pariksit asks Narada Muni, how come devotees of Lord Shiva, who's a mendicant, are very materially wealthy, or they're well off, but then worshippers of Vishnu, who is the goddess, he's the husband of the goddess of fortune, he possesses all opulence. How come his devotees are usually poverty stricken? And Maharaj Pariksit says, or I think Krishna himself says, that he is very hard to worship because he's not going to just give you material things. He's going to take away all your material desires. And one way in which he does that is mentioned in the 8th verse. So I'm just going to quickly pull that up so I can recite it. It's also a verse that Srila Prabhupada did a lot of commenting on, even though he didn't write the purport for it. He spoke about it because he experienced it himself. And so it says, the personality of Godhead said, if I especially favor someone, I gradually deprive him of his wealth. Then the relatives and friends of such a poverty-stricken man abandon him. In this way, he suffers one distress after another. Dukkha dukkitam, one distress after another. So this is how Krishna treats his devotees, to make them akinchana. And Prabhupada himself experienced this, that when he was preparing to preach, preparing to take sannyas, which he actually just did, that anniversary was yesterday, I believe, that Krishna deprived him of all his wealth, and he deprived him in that way, all his friends and family abandoned him. And so he had nothing, he only had Krishna. And this also is how Narada Muni himself got his position of an exalted sage, that he was cursed, or not cursed. his mother was bitten by a snake, and that was the object of his attachment, the object of his utmost attachment. And so when she died, he figured, okay, this is the will of the Lord. Let me just go and travel. So he had no attachments from that point on. So everything Krishna does in our lives is to bring us closer to him. And we can't come closer to Krishna unless we have the desire to. And this brings me to my final point, that everything moves based on desire. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives the analogy of the tree and how there's the tree with its roots upwards and its branches downwards. So Prabhupada says this can only happen if it's a reflection. And so what is that thing that it's reflected on? What is this, the real tree, the spiritual world? What is that being reflected on? And he said, it's desire. So everything is just, the whole world is moving based on our desire. Our whole experience, our whole consciousness is being taken in a direction based on our desires. And this is true both spiritually and materially. The super soul, what is that? Upaja Sanamantacha, Varta Bhokta Maheshvara. I don't remember the rest of the Sanskrit, but Krishna is saying that in the super soul, he is directing the wanderings and fulfilling the desires of the conditioned souls. So we can't really do anything without the super. We can't do anything on our own, materially or spiritually. We just have to have the desire, and then we're kind of given sanction. But we need that sanction materially, but spiritually that sanction is always there, because Krishna wants us to come closer. And so our desire, basically how we do in our spiritual life, is based on the desire, is dependent on the desire of how close we want to come to Krishna, how close we want to commune with that reality of loving devotional service. And our acharyas speak about, and our texts speak about different intensities of desire. They mention lobha, which is agreed to achieve Krishna. And that is the actually prerequisite to achieving Krishna. The only one, because it's causeless mercy. You just have to want it. You just have to take it. The only qualification for receiving mercy is being open to it, because it's always there. It's always coming, causelessly, unconditionally. We always have love and mercy showering upon us. Every time we look at the deities, they're showering our blessings. The Guru Parampara is there. They're showering their blessings. They also mention Lalasa Mai, which is a hankering for perfection. And these are obviously very high stages, but bhakti is about the heart, and bhakti is about desire. It's not that we just have, if Krishna wants me to come close to him, then, I'll do that. It's like, no, we have this intense greed. And we can only exhibit, the only thing that we can do in our Krishna consciousness, it's not by observing yama and just withdrawing our senses, withdrawing all our material desires. It's by having a positive desire, positive spiritual, having a right desire. When the hand is not working properly, we don't cut the hand off. We cure the hand. We make the hand do what it's supposed to do. And so desires are inherent to the soul. And I know I'm going a little bit over time. I'll just end with these last final points. So if you don't have the intense desire, like lobha, if you don't have that greed, lalasamaya, hankering for perfection, then you can hanker to have the desire to have that. If you don't have the desire to be pure, or if you aren't pure, you can desire to be pure. If you don't have the desire to be pure, you can have the desire to have the desire to be pure. Also, to love Krishna, to surrender, to experience, to ask Krishna for that experience of bhakti, of experience of him, of reciprocation of him. And so you can also show that desire. A lot of times I feel like devotees kind of hide that desire, and we're afraid to cry out. We're afraid to yell in kirtan. We're afraid to show our emotion. But it's not that Ayendra Prabhu says in lecture, it's not that you're not supposed to cry for Krishna. It's not that you're not allowed to cry during your japa. You can have that intense. If you can't cry during your japa, what does Mahaprabhu say in the 6th verse of Shikshastakam? He says, Nayanam Galada Shrudaya, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will that day come? He himself is hankering for that intense desire to see Krishna, because he himself in this moment is not feeling it. So we can feel separation from the desire, because these feelings come and go. If you can't cry about how you can't cry. If you can't feel Krishna present, then then cry about how you can't feel Krishna present. If you can't pray and feel deeply, then pray about how you can't feelingly pray deeply. So I'll end there. Thank you for tolerating me. Please accept my obeisances to all of your lotus feet. I hope that I benefited you all in some way. And this is a very great opportunity for me to speak. I'm very junior, so I just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your attention, and I will accept any corrections, comments, or questions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan Prabhu. Great class. Very experiential and anecdotal class. Thank you for the little stories that you shared. So temple room, is there a question in the temple room? I see Arjuna Prabhu in the back and Ross. Abdullah, Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, no questions at the moment, but we were all clapping for Evan. So we were like clapping, but the mic was muted. But we're missing a lot here in the temple. He leads the Mangalardi, and so we were kind of in a mess this morning. But great class, and we're just trying to love Krishna a little bit more, and Evan does inspire us. So thank you for that, Evan.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah, Evan is our anchor man.
Yeah.
Evan Prabhu, I have a question.
Okay.
You were sharing how you were inspiring this young Guru Kuli on his path to Krishna, explaining to him that for you it's about experience. So my question is, how do we help other people experience Krishna consciousness when they are doubtful, when they kind of maybe challenging us? How do we, instead of debating them or just walking away from them, how do we help them experience Krishna?
That's a great
How
question.
do you do that?
Two things immediately came to mind. One of them is that we can't make anyone experience. Krishna is already in their heart, doing everything that he can. And so we can just become an instrument. It's not that, again, making this point that we can't force someone to take a book, or we can't make someone taste the holy name. But we can just become an instrument. We can surrender to that. And if Krishna wants to use us in that way, to show someone or give someone experience of that relishable bhakti, that rasa, then we are open to that. And Abdullah Prabhu actually said, when preparing for class, Krishna just gives so many things in conversations that you can pull from, and everyone is guru, everyone is Prabhu. So Abdullah gave me something in the conversation recently that, thank you. He said, when he's trying to get his family to be favorable to his practice, he doesn't say anything. He's like, it's too complicated, I don't want to explain it. Just listen to this kirtan. He'll lead his extremely heartfelt, soul-wrenching, sweet kirtan. And in that way, hope that they can experience the holy name, hope that they can experience something in their heart.
So when Abdullah Prabhu gets challenged, he just plays kirtan on his phone and puts it in.
No. He will actually sing and chant.
Maybe he can dance for them. Abdullah Prabhu.
Yeah. So those are the two things that immediately came to mind. And I guess just pray for them also. Maybe give them prasadam or just be patient. Because Krishna's been patient for so many lifetimes, and he's in their heart. One time in a preaching program, I got the visual that Krishna is guiding everyone from behind, and all these souls they're kind of seeking him. But devotees in the room, Krishna is guiding them from the front, so he's pulling them closer towards him. And otherwise, he's kind of hidden, but he's still working. So, yes, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Jamuna Jaya, unmute yourself. And maybe camera, we need your smile badly. Yes.
Jai.
Good morning. Thank you, Evan Prabhu, for a wonderful class. I just
Thank
wanted to
you.
say, I always love the reminder of if you don't have the desire, to pray to want to have it. I think you showed it well. Like this is some time ago when the subject was envy or one of those really bad anarthas. And it's like, how do I get rid of it? And you can't, you can't on your own. But then you at least have to go, okay, Krishna, I can't do it, but I want to learn to do it. So I always think that's a powerful reminder that, even if we can't, Krishna can. And if we don't have the desire, just to at least pray for that. So thank you for reminding us reminding us of that. Can't talk. Krishna.
Beautiful, beautiful point. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, Jamuna
Okay,
Jaya.
Will?
Yeah, I have a question. In the Christian Greek scriptures and in the Hebrew scriptures, it says God is love. And it also says that that we should be like God.
It's 8 hours.
I get confused when it also says that God is a jealous God in the Hebrew scriptures. And then I've been wanting to ask this question in Bhagavatam class, and it's burning desire to ask this question. I'm an aspiring devotee, and I really want to know, how is it that God is a jealous God, and yet we're supposed to not be jealous?
That's a really good question.
Yeah,
So,
right?
yeah, I'm a little bit stumped. I guess
I'm stumped myself.
Well, okay, I can say this. We are called to. Okay, this is perfect. I was just listening to Krishna's daily activities in Dwarka. So he gets up in the morning and he meditates. But what does he meditate on? He himself is the supreme absolute truth. So he meditates on himself. But it's not that we have to be like Krishna in the sense that we meditate on ourselves. Oftentimes in japa, we are just kind of, instead of Krishna's pastimes, we're thinking of our own pastimes. It's not, that's not how we're supposed to imitate Krishna. We're supposed to meditate on Krishna. And so if Krishna is wanting others' attention, then we can also want others to pay their attention to Krishna. So that's what came to mind. I hope that answers a little bit. I can say a little bit more if you need, but I think we're about to end.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu.
Makes sense? It's good?
Yeah. Angelica?
Yes, I just wanted to quickly add, because what comes to me hearing this question is the simple truth that whatever Krishna does, he does for the pleasure and the relationship with his devotees, to bring them closer to him. And I want to argue that definitely our intentions are not always that. And so in a way, when he is experiencing or externally showcasing something which we can label jealousy as a reflection in our own material conditioning, it's still happening for the sake of us coming closer to him, which you just also mentioned as a anecdote in the class, like something will happen in the japa that our attention is being pulled back to Krishna. It's not really also pulled back. So because he is jealous and he wants our attention because he knows that this is our highest happiness.
Yes. It's a beautiful point. Thank you.
in Bhagavatam.
Yeah. Krishna doesn't have material jealousy like we do. Anything that we have, any emotion that we have in this material world is a perverted reflection of the pure in the spiritual world. Krishna is completely self-satisfied. He is not at all in any way, shape, or form lacking of anything. And the only reason that people feel jealousy is because they feel unsatisfied and they feel lacking of things, and they look at others and they think, I want what others have. Krishna is never like that. Krishna is completely self-satisfied. He is completely unattached. I was just reading in the Srimati Radharani book yesterday, a pastime of the gopis crossing the Yamuna River to see Krishna. And Krishna told them to say, if Krishna is a pure brahmachari, please part your rivers. And Yamuna Devi did that. And the gopis said to Krishna, how is it that you're a pure brahmachari? You're always associating with us. And he said, because I am unattached. Because I am unattached, therefore I'm a pure brahmachari. So Krishna is unattached. He's not jealous. But if jealousy exists in this material world, it exists in its pure form in the spiritual world. Krishna doesn't have to be jealous. The only time that he would want to purely be so-called jealous is out of his love, of actually wanting to serve his beloved. So we should try to get rid of all material jealousy. We cannot comprehend Krishna. Krishna is not a materially jealous God. And if I haven't read the Hebrew scriptures, but God is not materially jealous.
Krishna is
Thank you.
called Atma Ram, which means self-satisfied. And yeah, he doesn't need anything, but he still chooses. He actually is. I asked this question once, like, if Krishna is supremely renounced, if he's detached, does that mean he's detached from his devotees? Does that mean that he doesn't need his devotees?
Yeah, that's
And
my
the answer I
question
got
too,
was,
Evan. Yeah,
sorry? That was your
that's my
question?
question too, yeah.
So I asked Gaura Sharan Prabhu this question, and he said, no, we are parts and parcels of Krishna. And so it says many times that Vishnu is not in want of Lakshmi Devi. But Prabhupada also gives the example, you can't have the energy without the energetic. You can't have the energetic without the energy. So it's not that he's attached, it's that they're actually parts of him. And so he does want our love, and he is attached to his devotees. So yeah, I hope that, but he's, if he doesn't, he's not lacking, even if we aren't there. I hope that makes sense.
It is
Meaning that
said
he's
that
not less complete. He's not less of a complete whole.
Bhima Prabhu, if you're still here, would you like to contribute to this subject? We know you're a
Sure.
very advanced soul.
Yeah, funny. Can you hear me? Am I broken up here?
We can hear.
You can hear. Listen, a father is heartbroken when the son goes away or the daughter goes away for whatever reason. Krishna is heartbroken that we have come here and turned our back on him. Jealousy is an expression of hurt. It is said, Prabhupada said, that Krishna wants us back even more than we want to go back. So when we come to understand who Krishna is in our heart and in our life and in this world, we no longer want to hurt him. So that jealousy, we must strive very hard to please Krishna by bringing back all his children. Because when we don't, and when we ourselves turn away, whether it be in the moment during our japa or by committing some offense, we are hurting Krishna. We're not pleasing him. So yes, Krishna is a jealous God, and yes, we can understand it. Look how sad a father is to lose a child or a mother. So that's how I see it in regards to how Prabhupada said that Krishna wants us back more than we want to go back at this time. So Hare Krishna. Wonderful class, Evan, by the way. Wonderful to hear from you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima
Thank
Prabhu.
you so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Evan Prabhu. Okay, it's 8:08. Temple room, do we have time for more questions until the darshan time? Arjuna Prabhu is giving thumbs up. Yes. Okay. Questions, comments, dear devotees? Yeah, Evan Prabhu, I wanted to ask. So you said that during japa, Krishna interferes when you're inattentive. What exactly happens? How does he bring you back to attentiveness?
Some people might think that I'm a bit sentimental for this, but I'll just share this experience that I had. I was chanting outside in the morning, looking over the bay and in my house in Jersey, and there, I had done a very great round. It was super fun. I was myself surprised, and I started the next round, and I was kind of thinking, oh, I should really text this person. I haven't texted, like, how are they doing? And the kind of mind turned on, and then at that same moment, a bird like attacked my head almost. It was like very close to attacking my head, and it went that way. And then I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. This bird almost like went for my head. And I thought it was just a one-time thing. It came the other way and did the same thing. And then when I was attentive to my japa, I was like, oh, Krishna, are you like trying to get pull my mind back to the present? And so I kind of took it as a sign to do that. And then the bird didn't bother me. The same exact thing happened the next morning. And so I kind of was like, it kind of was a validation for me that Krishna, and then other things have happened also.
Did somebody
Yeah.
pull you by the hair in the temple?
No. But I don't know. Those are two memorable experiences for me. Another thing happened recently in which I was, having pretty attentive japa and then suddenly just lost it. And I guess he likes to use animals to like bring me back to the present, because you're never more present than when you're being attacked by an animal or something. So I saw this huge bug in the yoga studio. I locked myself in the yoga studio because I wanted to chant nicely. And I saw this huge bug. And I was like, Krishna, you better not let that bug come near me. And I was doing my japa and I was, becoming very lazy. I actually laid down on the bench, the soft bench. And I was just, playing with the little wood thing, making a little sound. And then on that moment, I felt something tickle my stomach. And I saw this huge bug. And I freaked out. And I just took it as Krishna was pranking me and trying to, remind me to like sit up and be present. So I don't know. I mean, some people might be like, that was just a bug, but that's how I took it.
Yeah, this is the devotee. That's how devotees see things. So what happened to the bug? Did you chant in his ear and send him back to Godhead?
I just, he was going near the door, so I just opened the door and let him go, and then I locked the door.
Nice.
But yeah, he did definitely hear my chanting, so
Nice.
maybe next lifetime.
Thank you, Evan. Beautiful class and beautiful devotee you all. Just a pleasure to be in your association. Thank you very much. Angelica says something. This is the last thing. She says something in the chat. Angelica, would you like to unmute yourself and clarify? She wanted to clarify something with
read.
Okay, I can read. I just want to clarify, Angelica says, with Will and his family. It is that you brought up God in Hebrew scriptures as described as all loving and the source of love, which you thought conflicts with the jealousy of Krishna. She's asking, Angelica is asking Will. I don't know, this is all over my head. Hebrew scripture, I have no clue.
I believe he
Yeah, there
gave
are
his reply
multiple
in the chat.
names. Yeah. I was just wanting to clarify if I wanted to make sure that Will understood the point, because there are many names, just like in our tradition, for Krishna that exemplify his characteristics. Also in Hebrew scriptures, there are many names which exemplify the characteristics of God. So it seemingly may appear as if jealousy is conflicting with the idea of Adonai or Elohi, or whichever name that you want to use from Hebrew scriptures, as being all loving, but there is no conflict because that love is spiritual.
Nice, beautiful. Okay, it's 8:15. It's Sunday. Have a beautiful Sunday, everybody. Good seeing you all. Your bright faces. This is the highlight of my day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta
Heaven
Koti
Prabhu ki
Vaishnava Vrinda
jai.
ki jai. Nitai Gauri Pramanande. You all.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.